Friends, colleagues, and listeners, here we are, another podcast, and today's guest is Marc Ramthun, who's the Business Aviation Sales Director, and he's representing AEG Fuels. So, Marc, great to have you on board, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And looking forward to learning more about the world of fuel.
Well, it doesn't sound that exciting, but when we get into it, I think, the listeners, right, it's a part of every single thing aviation requires. You need probably a couple of things, right? You need flight crew, and you probably need fuel for every single flight, regardless.
Oh, yeah. And my goodness me, as fuel is such an influencer and such a disruptor and such an obstacle and such a enabler. And the only thing I'd say to start off with, Marc, is, during the pandemic, one of the great things, obviously, is that we've had low interest rates, we've had low fuel prices. So it's almost as if nature puts its own safety net in when it decides to disrupt the whole world.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, look, during the pandemic, everyone was short on cash. Cash flow was a major issue. Demand wasn't there at the time, but I think the saving grace was fuel prices were low. It allowed people to continue their operation, it continued to fly. And like you said, it just self-corrects itself as time goes on.
Yeah. And also, a little bit of a conundrum because private aviation became so popular and it increased in demand, and quite rightly so, for people who wanted to protect themselves and have less touch points than legacy carriers. I think it was 10-to-1 difference. So you can understand it there. You can also understand if people appreciate business in a certain way, the benefits of the convenience, the speed, everything that goes with it. And then on the other side, you've got you've got people who want to be seen to be green, who are then damning it. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, almost. But it's it's a necessity that more people are appreciating and realizing. And then when you add up the accessibility to the FBOs, I've even known of people flying some of their top management teams in just to an FBO to have a meeting and then straight back out again.
Yeah, it's business aviation is truly a necessity. And I think the pandemic showed that, because
yes,
areas you could go to on a normal scheduled flight, right? All the commercial airlines were shutting down and you couldn't get to places. So we saw this whole new market that came in of people that didn't see it as luxurious, but thought it as essential. And we brought them all into the private charter market. And I don't think that's going away. I think once people got the bug and they realized the convenience of it, like you said, you can meet up for a meeting and be home in time for dinner. It's here to stay.
Yeah, I agree. And also the facilities now at FBOs, it's incredible. It's like 5-star hotels, some of them.
They're amazing, right? And they get better and better. And you see everyone now is competing against each other. When one FBO opens, a new one has to step up their game as well.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Right, so fuels, Marc. Okay, now everybody knows how important it is, and you can't. I don't think anybody anywhere, is hidden from press when the oil prices are going up, what it means for the rest of the world when they're going down. If there's shortages, if there's problems like, the Ukraine at the moment, everything seems to have an impact on something to do with aviation. We never seem to be able to go to bed at night and know that when we wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be clear blue skies everywhere.
That's 100% true, right? We always got to stay ahead of it, because whatever the issue is, and we've even experienced issues here on how do you stay ahead of it on, a global supply shortage of workers. At least in the United States, we've had a terrible time with, truck drivers and other logistics, has caused stress as other industries grow. We all are competing for the same resources, and that's labor resources.
Yeah.
And so that's been a challenge as well.
Can I ask you something, Marc? Because
Sure.
Obviously it's something you brought up there now. But do you feel now that organisations and senior management, they've got to look a lot more differently at the way they keep people and the way they develop people and what people actually want from their management team and also from a business? Because T's and C's and just putting bums on seats, that isn't working anymore.
No, and it's, I think, again, it's the whole dynamic has changed. It's gone from the worker having trouble to find a position to the opposite. Management now, we're struggling to find people to fill the jobs, and we want to find people that are rewarded with the jobs and are fulfilled with the jobs.
Yeah.
So we've had to give a different set of values, and it's across the whole industry of what they're looking for. Is it a work-life balance? Is it, what applies to the worker that didn't apply 2 years ago even? And so you're seeing it with a lot of these, traditional logistical industries that are, people have left that position. And so we've done a really good on our company here job of managing that, because it's, we had to really beef up our supply team. We tripled the size of it in a year just because of supply issues, not because of supply, anything else changed. And so we totally changed our complete business model for that on how we manage logistical side. And it's made a difference, but you're going to see companies all over continuing to face this issue and try to find ways of solutions. And what works today may not work tomorrow, but you just got to keep trying and stay ahead of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's a little bit like the iceberg principle, what we're seeing is above the waterline at the moment, but the knock-on effects over the next 3 to 9 months, it's going to readjust. It's going to show that, again, the attrition levels will be too high for companies that just focused on bums and seats when they needed people.
Yeah, they're not. If they're not developing your people and you're not continuing that on, you're going to have a rough road ahead to maintain your business.
Yeah, 100%. So AEG Fuels value proposition, Mark. How would you sell it to me?
So look, AEG Fuels, we're taking something that's seems homogenous across the board, right? It's aviation fuel. But what we don't know behind the scenes is how you get that fuel. Every country has their own regulations on how you procure fuel. Every airport has their own regulations on you procure fuel. So as a flight department, and you're looking at a fuel purchase, do you really want to spend the time and negotiate on each individual airport? Your most important thing is, are you getting the best value on price and service? And then are you getting the fuel on time, on target every time you ask for it? And so what we've done is taken all these different factors. I think worldwide, we have close to 2,000 different suppliers of fuel that we work with. And we have over 3,000 different locations. And how do you take that when you order fuel from me, that all you have to deal with is AEG, and you click of a button and the fuel shows up when it's supposed to? So, as a value proposition is, look, we provide not only the fuel service, but we provide all the servicing behind it and what goes into that on a trip. So, we look at different things besides that. We look at, managing your fuel expense, but we also look at, are you thinking about your tax implications of your trip? Because you may not need to pay all the different taxes. Some people are savvy on that, some are not. But again, you want to file with every single European country to reclaim your VAT tax. Okay,
right, yeah, and that can make quite a bit of difference.
It could double the price in some cases.
Yeah, which is crazy, isn't it? Okay, so it's basically a one-stop shop, yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, one call does it all.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm going to write that one down.
You can use it.
Yeah. I'm going to, believe you me, I will do. One call does it all. Nice one. Right. So within that one call, okay, what would you say is the pecking order of the most common part of the service that everybody really rates and would say that's the reason why we use AEG fuels?
One of our things that we like and we pride ourselves is we probably have the most responsive and senior dispatch team of any fuel company. I think our average response time on email is below 5 minutes for 95% of our emails. Okay. So whether you're calling at 2 a.m., 2 p.m., you're getting the exact same level of service to our customers. And I think, we've done it in times where we said, well, how fast can we do it and how accurately we can do it? Those are kind of two that go hand to hand. Yeah. And we've always seen it come back in 5 minutes. And when we go out on the road and talk with customers or trade shows, and we ask, why do you buy from the AEG? And we hear a lot of times it's because of our dispatch team.
That's good. So that's the MVP. And what are the workhorses?
So the workhorses behind the scenes are our supply team. Yeah. Managing the supply. And then one of our other team we have to give it to is, we have a very robust credit team. And we try to see ourselves as an extension and a facilitator for the flight department, not as a hindrance. Yeah. Okay. So we work very closely to make sure we have the proper lines of credit, and then we're, facilitating the fuel, and we never have a delay. And so I think that's where we all work hand in hand. And then with me, of course, I'm on the charge of the sales team. So, I never want to put it past them because they're dealing with the customer day in, day out. They're getting the first call of something that's coming up and how they can help. But those are the other guys are the behind the scenes. Everyone knows the sales, but everyone likes the sausage, just no one knows how it's made, right? Yeah. And if they did, a lot more people wouldn't eat them. Yeah, exactly. That's the truth. Yeah. Right. So something that's very topical at the moment, obviously the Ukraine
and what it's doing, people flight planning and overflight and landing permits, etc. I mean, things like that. How much does that actually affect your business?
Yeah, it has a day-to-day impact. I mean, we're always looking at what's going on, especially in the flight planning side. What countries are going to overfly, which ones we can't. Those are always changing on a day-to-day business. What new NOTAMs are out there for airports. So we're always continuing to update that. I wouldn't say that's anything, any of these type of crises are always crises, you see on the news, but we're dealing with them every single day and trying to stay ahead of them as much as we can. And it impacts the fuel side as well. We want to make sure where the fuel's available. You may have saw, back when they did all the evacuation out of Afghanistan, and the stress that put on different fuel markets around the world, because, you're expecting X amount of fuel at this airport, and now everyone's funneling those fuel, and it quadruples it. And how do you respond to that? It's not the problem, it's how do you respond to it?
Yeah, no, exactly. And you also with I was looking at some of the points on your website, but you've also got marine fuel and land fuel services as well.
We do, yeah. We have a team that works on that separately, and we have some very good experience in the marine side.
Okay, good. And a question that I asked you in the just in the warm-up was about the Carnet card.
So the Carnet card is our universally accepted credit card for fuel. So it allows you to buy fuel, but it also allows you to buy any of the services you get at the FBO. You can put it on the one card.
Yeah.
So as we've seen and we've developed this, a lot of flight departments really like the simplicity of one invoice. They don't want a separate invoice for ground handling, a separate invoice for fuel. So the Carnet card allows that to be all in one place.
Okay, very, very good. And another service that I noticed was mentioned was about bulk deliveries to FBOs and storage facilities.
Yeah, that's, we're seeing more and more flight departments develop their own fuel tanks. They have their own supply so that they can control costs. Especially like in the United States, if you have a G650, you can probably go anywhere for most of your business and never have to get fuel on the road. So more of them are buying fuel at their home base and then flying everywhere, not buying fuel. So that's been a really big growth area we've seen. We've seen more people transition to their own bulk fuel farms as well to kind of build that. But then we also do FBOs. We have FBOs that are branded AEG. That are AEG Connect FBOs. We have preferred FBOs that we have preferred handling, and we provide the bulk fuel for them as well.
Okay, brilliant. And when we talk about customized fuel sourcing and back office support, what does that cover?
So that kind of covers, look, depending on how you want, it can be down as simple as how you want your invoice laid out, or how you want to receive your tax reports. I mean, we look at different ways of how do we integrate easily with your flight department.
Yeah,
we want to make it as easy. We don't want to make it difficult to buy. We're not interested in adding another layer to your process. What we're trying to do is how do we simplify the fuel purchase to your invoicing to payment, and that could be as simple as maybe there's a special terms that are more favorable to you, and we're going to work with you to achieve that.
Okay, that's good. And also the one of the things we were talking about, and now everybody's looking at now, I think what's the crude oil prices, I don't know, 95, 96 or 97, and it was 62 under a year ago. So I mean, that's a huge jump. So the price risk management is something that you look at as well, huh?
Yeah, you have to manage that closely, right? Your exposure now is 33% higher, double what it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So we're always watching that, right? It's harder on the client too, because their credit line has to be extended, or they need more working capital, and we understand that. We understand the ebb and flow, and we match it as best we can.
Yeah, but I mean that's a huge impact, isn't it?
It is. I mean, fuel is probably in a lot of these flight departments close to 30% of their cost now.
Yeah. No, that is bad. Now, something that everybody says you need as a supplier and what customers look for is trust. And to have trust, you've got to validate that somebody can provide certain services, but equally, if you're going to be accountable, you've got to verify that they're able to do it. So accuracy, consistency, contingency, all those areas that I think COVID has actually brought home more than any other issues, which is about how you manage your worst case scenario or your risk. So have you found that customers are looking a lot more now at those contingencies and what suppliers are able to provide?
We've had more conversations probably than ever in this last year of, we just want to meet with you. We're going to this airport a lot. What's our supply look like?
Yeah.
And I think that's rightfully so. As any good company, you want to do your due diligence to ensure that the suppliers you're working with have that. We've been up for the challenge though, because, we haven't ran out of fuel. We haven't had those issues. And if, when we see opportunity or we see a challenge, we're very proactive. There was a time, I think it was earlier this year when, a particular airport and the fuel was a problem with logistics. We brought trucks in from, almost 2,000 miles away to move the fuel so it was uninterrupted. And, it was a painful for us to set that up and do it, but to the customer, right, it was business as usual. And that's what the best compliment we can get is there was no issue.
No, that is good. And can I ask you something?
Sure.
For your customer base, do you customized solutions like that? Do you keep record of those solutions for success and let the customers know of those things that happen on a regular basis so that they're constantly aware of how much further AEG goes maybe than other organizations?
When the time is right and we're talking on those one-on-ones and we're getting to meet them and, sharing a pint after, we always like to relay those and tell them what we do. But, we're pretty modest at the same time. We just want to make sure that they know that to them, if they know every time it goes, I think it's implied that they know what's going on behind the scenes because, our biggest thing is we don't tell people no. And if there's a problem, let's talk about it before we say no. How do we fix it? How do we come up with a solution? And our guys have been extremely creative on things we need to do.
Okay, very good. And another issue that everybody's talking about, but I'm finding that it's easier to talk about than actually really commit to it fully, and that's data sharing and digitization. Improvements. How are you doing on that particular front? Any innovations or any unique services or systems that you've got in place?
Yeah, I mean, we team up. There's a FBO software called X1. That's a FBO processing. We're partnered with them, so we have a lot of integration with our carnet card that everything can go electronic to us.
Yeah.
And we have a different FBOs as well that we process information electronically and as well as process invoices to customers electronically. So we're trying to be on the forefront. It's difficult because it changes on a daily basis on new systems that come up. But how we do it is we listen to what the customers are looking for and try to match the innovation that we've already come up with to kind of fit their solution.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And what about some of the apps? Everybody's looking at these things and they're creating apps all over the place. Have you got anything in play?
We do. Yeah, we've had it for quite some time. The AEG Fuels app, which is very unique because you can go on there literally on the phone, see the fuel pricing, order a fuel release, all from the touch of a phone. So our pilots love this because they can go and just click and order it.
Yeah.
But what we've done is taken a step is the carnet card is actually digital on the app. So in real time, they can show the card and then they can process it from the app.
Okay, brilliant. So where I'm coming to now is obviously, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is so many people and the press and media, they've got a great way of distorting truths and making people focus on things that under normal circumstance they wouldn't. But obviously carbon neutral programs, climate control. You got SAFs. So we spoke about sustainable aviation fuels. Where are you guys with regards to those particular issues?
So we have a couple initiatives that we're really excited. One that I'm the program manager for, and part of it is our carbon offset program.
Yeah.
And that's been around the market for a lot longer. People are more familiar with how that works. But we really look at it as a benefit on not only as a way, because SAF is not readily available in the quantities we like currently. Yeah. And I think it's a good bridge to get there. It's a good bridge on that. On the SAF side, we've been pretty innovative on, attaining SAF supply. SAF, just first up to kind of clarify, everyone hears the buzzword, you know, SAF,
Yeah,
SAF, SAF. And we run into flight departments who say, we would use SAF, but I need to talk with the director of maintenance to see if our aircraft accepts SAF, you know.
Yep.
And it's a legit answer. But what they don't realize is SAF is jet fuel. SAF is the exact same spec when it's to work in your aircraft. It has to be the exact same spec. So to the naked eye, it's jet fuel. To your plane, it's jet fuel. It works. It's just how it's manufactured, the sources it comes from, if it's from renewable sources. And so SAF is coming more and more in the market. We've seen probably a few years ago where SAF would be double the price.
Yeah.
We've seen that come down probably 60% in just a few years. The goal would be to have some parity with regular jet fuel when that comes up and going. But right now it's not globally available. It's, you know, in a few major cities, and more suppliers are coming online with it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think people need to be aware of, because everybody assumes that if something's there or somebody's talking about it, that's what everybody should do. But the availability, the price, and at the end of the day, the three P principle of people, profit, and planet, it has to go in that order. So firstly, people need to be aware and educated. Businesses have to have profit, otherwise they're not going to invest in things that are going to help the planet.
Sure.
And then people need to understand, you know, the planet is so important. Yes, it is, but without the other two in the right order and with the right dynamics, it's going to be very difficult to influence.
It is, and it's, you know, we're seeing a lot of early adopters in it as it makes more sense, you know, financially. We've seen very early adopters would do it regardless of the price. But as you know, as the price comes down, we bring more people into the market. We bring more people into the fold, and that's the goal. Is, you know, how do we think, you know, beyond the traditional fuel sense? And SAF is part of that equation, but carbon offsets is part of that equation too. If you want to be responsibility, we hear this term. I heard it yesterday. We were in a meeting, and you know, they're calling this greenwashing, right? Some programs out there that are just pure fluff, and they're not really providing value to the planet. You know, our programs we developed, you know, have thought about all those things and bring something to the market that really helps the planet, but also, you know, helps aviation as well.
Yeah, and another thing is, I was talking to a few people in the industry about some facts and figures, you know, and if there was an infographic that was accurate, that explained, you know, the difference between the impact of how you run your own house with heating and waste and, you know, and everything else, and then all different types of transport, etc. If that could be brought into some sort of reality where people could align with it, and then also see the realities of the benefits and the necessities of having to travel, etc., for business, I think people need to start to understand it more, because for something that relatively simple, it's very, very confusing. And when somebody says, oh yeah, no, we offset, we plant a tree here and we plant a tree there, when you look at it, it's a tiny little branch that the first storm would probably blow the whole thing over. You know what I mean? So what are people really doing?
You know, I think more accountability, right, is coming into these programs to ensure what they are. And as you pointed out, like that graph, you know, I think there's some charts already that show just comparison on how much fuel, without even talking about carbon offsets, but just how much in general carbon emissions, you know, the average jet does. And when you look at some of the numbers, you know, and how fuel efficient they are nowadays, you're astonished of, you're using less than if you would have drove that, you know, on some cases by the base of the number of people you have on there. And I think it's a little eye-opening when people see that. I think private jets is that easy touch point of, you know, for outrage. It's an easy outrage point for people to get behind. And really the conversation is a little deeper, and it's not as simple as what people may think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there needs to be, you know, there needs to be so much more effort put into it, even in schools and, you know, and in college, and, you know, so everybody has a better understanding. I remember, I mean, I'm ancient, but I remember being at school and the headmaster telling us all that we had 2 free lessons a week that he needed to fill. And so there we were, you know, great big ugly footballers and stuff. And he was trying to get us to play a recorder twice a week. Well, in this day and age, it would be much better to have some realities of life, so people had a good solid background of, you know, what was accurate and what wasn't.
Yeah, I agree, and accuracy is key. Sometimes it's not so easy to find nowadays. You would think it'd be the opposite, but it just, we got to get past the excitement or the hysteria of, what's good and what's bad, and really look at the numbers and see how it plays out.
No, I agree. So listen, let me ask you now. So as we come out of the pandemic and we're in a sort of an endemic stage, I mean, we've still got, I was watching a program last night about, how many people globally still need to be vaccinated and why it's not being shared the way it should do. And so no matter what we do, there's always something that's wrong. But from your perspective, what would you like to see now as we bring back better and, make it matter? What would you like to see for your side of the business in this year, 2022, 2023?
Look, I think in this year, I want to see, definitely, we've been lucky enough where the demand recovered very quickly. The business aviation demand is busier than it's ever been, and it's busier now than it was in 2019. I would like to see the world start traveling again. I would like to see, as we get out of it, Australia just barely opened up. 2 years, and I would like to get where everyone's comfortable and we get past it. I think here in the States, we've been lucky because, having such a large area, people have been traveling like normal for over a year now, right? It's business as usual, pretty much, which is what the new COVID normal has brought to us. But I mean, that's what we're kind of looking for, is can we get back to those, longer trips, those international trips? Because, we have offices all over. We have office in Dubai and Singapore. And, when we talk to our office in Singapore, it's a world of difference from what we're hearing from our office in Miami on, what the aviation community is doing, and we would just like to see that same kind of growth and the same kind of feeling of openness kind of spread out across.
Yeah. And do you see a trend whereby people will want to go further for longer, but less actual trips?
I kind of see it at maybe more frequent trips. I think is what we're seeing. I think, the days, a lot of it, our business travel, but even in the leisure, they're going shorter amount of times. They want to go more places. I think maybe our society, we're just bored easier. And so you're seeing the attention span shorter on places, but we're seeing a lot more frequency on trips.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. And now yourself as business development, what are you focusing on now specifically this year?
So this year, we're kind of, one of our big things is the environmental program we talked about earlier. SAF. We also have a rewards program that we've introduced last year that has been very successful, that allows people to get a monetary value back for every dollar spent, or for every gallon spent with AEG. And that's been a nice little, uplift for flight departments as well to do that. And then, the third thing is we just want to see, how do we get our value out to the most customers? And so we really focus in on make those personal connections again. A lot of us lost them during COVID. And we were lucky enough that we started traveling very early. About a year ago, we had all our team vaccinated. And we said, let's go visit people. And none of our other fuel companies were visiting people. And everyone said, are they going to see you? We were all a little nervous about it, right? Like, we had got used to being on these Zoom calls all day. And every place we went out was interesting, is, people that would have 5 minutes for you would now have an hour. And the personal connection was just alive and well, and people were yearning for it. People wanted to be able to talk to people. And we've never stopped that we really gained a lot within those personal connections. And so we just want to continue to grow that. And our goal for our team is, be out in front of people as much as possible, because that's how you make the connections, and people buy on how we can help them and what service we solve.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. And I think people are, they're really looking forward to doing it more, and they're willing to, like you said, spend more time with people, especially if the services are of value, and, they're consistent and people care and are engaged. And I think the most important thing is an organization that cares and offers all of the solutions. They're going to be very successful moving forward.
I agree. And we have a saying, and we didn't make it up. I think it was the US President Teddy Roosevelt said it, but I can't confirm it. But we said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I believe that 100%, because
we're out there. Nobody cares
how much you know
Yeah.
until they know how much you care.
Until they know how much you care. I love that. That's how much you care. That's two pearls of wisdom that I
Yeah.
am going to use, and I am going to abuse as often and as many times as possible, Mark.
You know what? That's the beauty, right? I mean, we all learn from each other. When I find those nuggets of wisdom, I use them all the time because
Yeah. Well, I've certainly got a couple of nuggets there. Mark, listen,
Yeah.
to you and everybody at AEG Fuels, wishing you great success, and obviously building on the existing success. Well done. Looking forward to speaking to you again, and hopefully one day maybe face to face for that beer.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. I'll mark it down.
All right, my friend. Take care. Good luck.
All right, thanks. Have a great day.